This was the moment. Peter faced a choice that would change everything. A decision made in silence, with no witnesses, no guarantees. Not a single clear sign that this second carried enough weight to redefine who he was. Nothing around him looked unusual. Everything kept running the way it always did. People kept talking, moving, taking their places. The world didn't pause to watch. No spotlight found him. No one treated him like someone standing at the edge of something permanent. He'd been there long enough for familiarity to feel like safety. Long enough for the first tension to fade. Long enough to think maybe, just maybe, nothing decisive was about to happen. There was no announcement, no countdown, no voice saying, "This is the point of no return." And yet, inside him, something was quietly lining up. He wasn't staring down a heroic, dramatic choice. There was no direct showdown, no clear demand for courage. What he had was something far more subtle, continuity. One ordinary moment sliding into the next like it had no meaning at all. That's what made it dangerous. Because choices made under threat are easy to recognize. But choices made in places that feel safe can slip by unnoticed, even by the person making them. Peter didn't wake up that day expecting to choose anything. He just kept going. He followed the flow. He matched the rhythm around him. And the silence did the rest. There wasn't one clean moment where he stopped and thought it all through. No long inner argument. The decision didn't show up like an official dilemma. It arrived as something smaller, an almost invisible adjustment, a slight shift, a new way of staying in the same place. And Peter understood something most people miss. Not every choice requires movement. Some choices harden into reality precisely when nothing seems to demand an answer. No one pushed him. No one challenged him. Nothing created urgency. Everything felt almost too steady. And in moments like that, conscience doesn't shout. It whispers, it watches. It waits to see how far someone will go without being forced. Peter stayed present. He kept listening. He kept existing in that space without drawing attention. Nothing about him looked suspicious. Nothing signaled a break. Nothing suggested that something was being decided right then. But it was, because some decisions aren't made when we're cornered. They're made when we're given too much room. Peter still didn't know what this choice would demand from him. He didn't know if it would carry real consequences. He didn't even know if anyone would notice. All he had was the now, the normal world around him, and an invisible line beginning to form between staying and taking a side. And the unsettling part was that, in that moment, the line didn't feel final. It felt adjustable, negotiable, easy to ignore. He could step over it later, or pretend he never saw it. And that's exactly what made this moment so decisive, because what was about to happen wouldn't come from impulse or emotion or overwhelming outside pressure. It would come from simply staying on course, from remaining, from choosing not to interrupt the natural flow of things. Peter was still there. Everything looked the same. Nothing had changed, but the silence had already started doing its work. And as that silence kept doing its work, Peter didn't register tension. He registered comfort. That's what made it so confusing. Nothing in him felt threatened. His body didn't flinch. His breathing stayed steady. Nothing in the room set off alarms. The danger didn't arrive as fear. It arrived as stretched out normal. He felt safe enough not to question, blended in enough not to stand out, far enough from immediate risk to believe there was still time. And when there's time, the mind postpones. He didn't fully ignore what was stirring inside him, but he also didn't name it. It was easier to call it exhaustion, easier to label it a passing fog, easier to treat it like an irritation that would sort itself out. Peter had always known how to handle outside pressure. A direct confrontation didn't freeze him. Clear orders pulled a clear response, but none of that was happening here. What he had instead was too much space to decide, and spaces like that don't guide you, they expose you. He could feel the strange weight of being visible and invisible at the same time, part of something bigger, but with no defined role in this moment. He didn't have to prove anything, didn't have to declare anything, didn't have to hold up a speech or make a case, and that absence of demand created a different kind of conflict. Because when no one is asking for your position, responsibility doesn't vanish, it just moves inward. Peter started to sense. It wasn't a choice between acting and not acting. It was a choice between facing the discomfort now or carrying it quietly a little longer. He thought about everything he'd already survived, past decisions that demanded an immediate answer, moments where the direction felt clear even when it hurt. Nothing about those moments matched this one. Here, there was no clarity. There was build-up. Every second that passed without interruption didn't resolve what was forming. It just made it harder to tell where it even began. A silent split started opening inside him, not between right and wrong, between what felt comfortable to keep up and what was starting to demand consistency. He didn't want attention. He didn't want to be singled out. He didn't want to carry consequences before he even knew they were real. And at the same time, he couldn't ignore it anymore. Something in him wasn't settling the way it used to. It wasn't guilt, not a clear, named fear. It was a hazy resistance, a steady sense of being slightly out of alignment. So, Peter stayed there. He participated, he listened, he answered when he had to, but every answer required a deeper inner adjustment than the last. Every silence took more effort to hold. The conflict didn't shove him into an immediate decision. If anything, it invited him to stay undefined. And even without putting it into words yet, Peter could feel it. Staying undefined had a cost. Because the longer you go without deciding, the more your body learns to live with the tension, and the harder it becomes to point to the exact moment something gave way. Peter didn't feel like he was failing, but he didn't feel whole either, and that ambiguity started to weigh more than any obvious threat ever could. The silence was still there. Only now, it didn't feel like it was merely watching. It felt like it was waiting for something from him. And that was the problem. When silence starts waiting for something from you, it stops being purely internal and starts blending into the air around you. Peter wasn't standing in a neutral place. Even if everything looked normal on the surface, the room carried stored-up tension. It was a time when words landed heavier than they should, when connections were noticed, when simply being close to the wrong person could read a loyalty or as danger. No one had to say any of this out loud. Everyone already moved like they knew. They knew when to talk less. They knew how a glance held a second too long could pull attention. Life kept going, but it was propped up by constant restraint. Peter moved inside that same current, not as the main figure, not as the obvious target, just close enough to be noticed, and ordinary enough to avoid suspicion at first. And in a place like that, quiet decisions don't stay small. There was no room for impulsive gestures, no room for bold declarations made without calculation. Everything required reading the room, watching tone, catching what wasn't being said. Peter knew that atmosphere. He could tell when normal was fragile, when calm didn't mean safety, it meant containment. The danger didn't come as a direct threat. It came as steady observation, the invisible logging of behavior, a shared memory that kept details. Nothing had to happen right now for consequences to arrive later. He felt that, not as sharp fear, but as caution growing in every movement, because he wasn't only deciding something for himself anymore. Any small shift inside him would have to exist inside that context. There were no isolated choices here. Everything echoed. What got tolerated today could get questioned tomorrow. What slipped by unnoticed now could get remembered later. So Peter stayed where he was, inside that controlled rhythm, trying to balance presence with invisibility. And the longer he watched, the clearer it became. This environment didn't demand a dramatic move in the moment. It demanded consistency. Not now, not yet, but soon. Because places like this don't pressure you to see who reacts first. They wait to see who holds. Peter understood, without even putting it into words, that any step out of alignment wouldn't be challenged immediately. It would be stored, and that added a new layer to the silence. It wasn't just waiting for an inner decision anymore. It was waiting for future coherence. He still didn't move. He still didn't speak. He still didn't break the flow. But now he knew he wasn't only deciding in silence. He was being placed, and what forms quietly inside an alert environment rarely stays without consequence. Everything still looked stable. People still kept their routines. Nothing felt urgent. But the space to remain undefined was beginning, slowly, to tighten. And as that space to stay undefined starts to tighten, it doesn't vanish all at once. It narrows. Peter doesn't experience it like a clear event. There isn't one obvious sign that says something changed. What changes is the feeling of room to breathe. The same gestures suddenly require attention. The same words demand a little calculation. What used to flow without effort now takes awareness. Nothing was announced. Nothing was forbidden. But something stopped being spontaneous. Peter stays right there. Same spot, same voices, same routine. And yet the room no longer gives him that same neutrality. He begins to notice tiny shifts, pauses that last 1 second longer than they should, glances that don't linger, but come back. Nothing accusatory, nothing direct, just attention. And Peter understands the difference. He isn't being tested, he's being watched. And in that kind of place, watching isn't about catching one mistake in the moment. It's about finding a pattern. The longer he stays, the more each small choice starts to feel like it leaves a trace, not as a verdict, as data. So he adjusts his voice, he controls his posture, he avoids anything that could read as too much, not from open fear, but because he can feel it. The environment doesn't absorb deviation the way it used to. The silence that once protected him now exposes him, not because someone breaks it, but because it stops hiding things. Peter starts to feel the weight of holding something up without ever naming it. There's no confrontation that lets him react, no accusation that demands a defense, just ongoing life under attention, and that wears you down. Because staying takes more effort than moving forward or stepping back. He can tell the margin for small adjustments is shrinking, not because doors are slamming shut, but because time itself is recording who he is when nothing happens. And that's what unsettles him. The room doesn't want an answer today. It wants to see if he's the same tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. The tension doesn't grow louder, it grows longer, and that's what makes it harder to carry. Peter remains. He doesn't rush ahead. He doesn't retreat. But now he knows every stretched out moment has a cost. What used to feel like waiting is starting to feel like holding. And holding something in silence while everything around you subtly recalibrates takes more than intention. It takes consistency. He still isn't at the point of action, but he can feel it now. Time is no longer working in favor of staying undefined. With uncomfortable clarity, he realizes the next phase won't arrive as a surprise. It will arrive as the consequence of staying exactly where he is. And the silence, once again, doesn't hurry anything. It just watches. And while it just watches, the silence stops feeling passive and starts feeling like it's waiting for an answer. Peter feels it. Not as urgency, not as obvious fear. More like a shift in the air that he can't talk himself out of. Nothing changes around him. Nothing demands a sudden move. But staying exactly the same no longer lands the same way. He realizes that continuing right now isn't neutral anymore. It has weight. Every extra second in the same place gathers meaning. even if nobody says it out loud. And there isn't one clean instant where he decides. No visible line where everything snaps into place. The decision doesn't arrive as a fully formed choice. It slips in. It shows up in how he answers faster than he wants to, in how he doesn't let certain conversations stretch, in how he keeps things simple that he would have explained before. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just small adjustments, harmless on their own, but together they point in one direction. And something unsettles him. Not choosing is still a choice. In that space, delay doesn't pause consequences anymore. Time doesn't grant margin. It only records. He doesn't feel a noisy inner battle. He feels compression, like the room to stay whole is getting smaller. Because now, any gesture won't be judged by how it looks, but by what it confirms. There's no freedom to improvise anymore. Not because someone took it away, because the moment stopped allowing it. Peter doesn't scan the room for help. He doesn't wait for an external sign. He understands nothing outside him is going to solve this. What's forming doesn't require a physical move. It requires enough inner alignment to carry it afterward. And that's what weighs most, because acting could end the tension, backing away could break it, but staying aligned without explanation, without announcement, without defense, means crossing the moment with no guarantees. This is the point where choices aren't made to be seen. They're made to be carried. Nothing visibly happens. No immediate reaction rises, but something locks in. Not as a final act, not as a neat conclusion, but as a direction he's now taken. Peter stays right where he is, and precisely because he stays, he knows something just became irreversible. Not because anyone said it, because he felt it. The silence doesn't react, it accepts. It accepts, and that's exactly why the silence changes its role. It isn't watching anymore, it's staying with him. Peter remains right there, but the way the room holds him isn't the same. Nothing happens instantly, no clear reaction, no obvious consequence, and that's what bothers him most. Because the world doesn't respond, but it doesn't ignore him either. After that inner shift, the space around him feels tighter. Not in a visible way, not in any declared way, just less forgiving. The same words now require care. The same gestures seem to carry extra weight. What used to vanish the moment it happened now hangs in the air longer than it should. He can't move with the same ease anymore, not because he slipped up, not because anyone confronted him, but because something has been recognized, even if no one names it. The silence that used to protect him now works like a mirror. It reflects him back, his presence, his intention, his coherence. There's no comfort in this phase, but there isn't condemnation either. There's only an uneasy staying, where every passing second confirms that what just settled can't be undone without a higher cost. He feels doubt, not about what he did, but about what comes next. There's no clarity, no sign of an ending. The decision didn't bring peace, and it didn't unleash chaos. It brought waiting, but it's not the same kind of waiting as before. This isn't suspension anymore. This is consequence taking shape. Peter understands that some choices don't hit immediately, because first they have to change the way a person occupies a space, and that change has already happened. Nothing demands an explanation. Nothing calls for a defense. Nothing pulls him into a confrontation. And still, everything seems to record. He feels tired, not from action but from restraint. Holding something invisible takes more energy than saying it out loud. And now, time isn't working in favor of forgetting. It's working in favor of definition. Peter stays there, but the way he stays no longer allows an easy return. And that creates a quiet tension. Not explosive, not urgent, just constant. A tension that doesn't ask for a new decision. It only demands loyalty to the one already made. The silence remains, only now it weighs differently. Because it weighs differently now, Peter starts to see something with sharper edges. Not full understanding, not a clean conclusion, but an inner shift he can't unfeel. The tension that stays doesn't shove him forward and it doesn't drag him back. It just remains. And, by remaining, it reveals. He realizes this discomfort isn't coming from a mistake or sudden fear or even the risk of being exposed. It's coming from coherence, from the second something adjusted inside him. Going back to how it was would take an unnatural kind of effort. No one is demanding anything from him on the outside. There's no explicit requirement, no stated threat. And still, there's a growing incompatibility between who he is now and the way he used to simply go along. Before, the room absorbed his presence without resistance. Now it feels like it returns each gesture with a silent question, not spoken, just felt. And Peter understands moments like this don't split people into strong and weak. They split inner states. Some pass through and never notice. Some notice too late. And some notice early, too early to ever return to the old comfort. He hasn't lost anything anyone could point to. But something is no longer available to him. Neutrality. No one took it away. It just stopped making sense. And that doesn't feel heroic. It doesn't feel like pride. It doesn't even feel like relief. It feels like quiet responsibility. Because now staying isn't just continuing, it's holding. Holding the internal adjustment. Holding a decision that was never announced. Holding a consistency nobody demanded out loud. He starts to see that faith, at this point, doesn't look like unshakable confidence. It looks like tired staying, like remaining when it would be easier to dissolve back into the flow, like standing your ground when no one is forcing definition, except your own interior, which won't let you escape comfortably anymore. Part of him wants something to happen soon, not to fix it, just to break the waiting, but nothing happens. And that presses in the most unsettling realization of all. The decisive moment isn't somewhere ahead. It has already started. Not as an event, not as a public act, as an inner state that now has to be carried through time. From here on, he understands it won't be one final gesture that defines everything. It will be his ability to sustain what's already been set. When nobody was watching, the silence remains. Only now it doesn't hide the meaning anymore. It just doesn't reveal it all the way. Not yet. Not yet. And that unfinished feeling starts to fill the entire space. Peter keeps going, but not in any way you can point to and call progress. He moves forward in time, through ordinary seconds, through small motions that don't draw attention. Nothing around him reacts out loud. No one points. No one challenges him. No one confirms anything. And that creates a strange kind of normal. Everything looks too unchanged to justify the weight he's carrying inside. He can see it now. The world keeps functioning even when neutrality is gone. Conversations continue. Routines stay in place. Faces don't give anything away. But one difference starts to show up, almost invisible at first. He doesn't move anymore without noticing that he's moving. Each pause runs a little longer. Each answer takes a little longer to form. Each silence feels heavier, not because he's planning it, but because awareness is there now. Peter understands there are choices that don't reshape the room right away, but they reshape the way a person lives inside the room. Before, he simply took up space. Now he has to hold a presence, and holding it demands constant attention. He can't hide inside the speed of what's happening. He can't dissolve into the collective flow. Even when everything looks the same, he knows he isn't. And the strangest part is that this awareness doesn't give him instructions. It doesn't point him anywhere. It doesn't clarify what comes next. It just stays with him, like a shadow that doesn't threaten, but also doesn't leave. That's when Peter realizes what he hadn't considered before. The discomfort isn't the fear of getting it wrong. It's the fact that he can't go back to being unaware. What's been seen can't be unseen, and it creates a specific kind of loneliness. Not because he's physically alone, but because something inside him has shifted. He's in the same place, among the same people, under the same structures, but he doesn't blend in the same way anymore. He doesn't turn it into a speech. He doesn't try to explain it to himself. He doesn't chase a justification. He just keeps going, because now he understands some decisions don't require immediate understanding. They require staying. And while nothing happens externally, something becomes clearer without ever being named. The time for being undefined is running out, not from outside pressure, not from a spoken demand, but because what shifted inside him is already starting to require future coherence. Peter can feel the next step hasn't arrived yet, but he can also feel that when it does, it won't allow neutrality. The silence remains, only now it isn't just there, it's preparation. And that's exactly why Peter understands, without having to put it into words, that something was decided long before any final gesture. Nothing was announced, nothing was confirmed out loud. No outside reaction validated what shifted inside him. And still, he knows. Not because he chose some dramatic action, but because he stopped trying to hold conflicting versions of himself at the same time. He knows he didn't arrive here through a sudden surge of courage or absolute conviction or perfect clarity. He got here through staying when it would have been easier to disappear, staying when silence stopped protecting him, staying when neutrality started charging an invisible price. Nothing exploded, nothing publicly broke. The environment remained intact, but something in him stopped being flexible. Peter understands that some decisions don't show up as single acts. They show up as irreversible states. They aren't made to be seen. They're made to be carried. And, from this point on, there's no going back to the comfort of being undefined. Not because someone is watching him, not because the world is demanding an answer, but because he can't pretend he doesn't know what he knows. He doesn't feel victorious. He doesn't feel defeated. He feels exposed, not to other people, but to his own conscience. And that exposure doesn't bring instant relief. It brings responsibility. Because what gets recognized in silence can't be denied without breaking something inside. Time keeps moving. Days continue. Structures stay in place. But now every step carries weight. Every pause communicates. Every absence confirms a direction. Peter knows the visible conflict hasn't started yet. The world still hasn't reacted. The consequences still haven't fully shown themselves, but he also knows the decisive moment wasn't when something happened. It was when he stopped trying to keep everything at once. The silence remains, not as waiting, not as shelter, not as escape. It remains as a witness. A witness that the decisions that truly change a path rarely happen under obvious pressure or in front of a crowd. They happen when nobody demands an answer, when everything looks normal, when silence leaves enough room for obedience to be chosen without guarantees. Faith isn't proven when the outcome is clear. It's proven when obedience is chosen in silence.